Hey, what's up? I am here with actually a series review. Normally I do just little book reviews and whatnot, but I decided to do this one as a series because of its subject matter and because there is one or two that I'd rather not talk a lot about. This series has 6 books in it. It's called The Woebegones and it's by Noel Biddy. These paperbacks are all cheaper on the UK version of Amazon. They're super expensive on the Amazon website, but they are available as ebooks as well. I did find them difficult reading as ebooks, so it was much easier reading them through these. I'm going to go through these in the order that I read them. There is no specific order that I know of. They are all varying lengths, from a little over 100 pages to I think almost 300 for one of them. Overall, the series was okay. There was 1 or 2 that I really liked, and then there was like 1 or 2 that I really didn't. Let's get started. Alright, let's start with Annie. First off, I hate the cover, which I guess is to be expected. Also, these covers look like they were made from AI. Do with that information what you will. Let me go ahead and read you the back to this one. Haunted by the enemies of her past, Annie used her unique imagination to crush those who crossed her, as her art was a way to cope with the pain, where the horrifying dreams allowed her to prosper and become galvanized in the written word that she pledged to fulfill in her destiny. But sadly, as fate twists and a nightmare is confronted, Annie knows that the only way to escape the pain of the past is to act with no mercy in the present. These are all written in a very poetic way, but this one specifically was one that I had a lot of trouble understanding, and I'm very good at understanding New King James Version of the Bible and Shakespeare. I am also very good at understanding poetry, and I was having a lot of difficulty with this one. I'm not quite sure exactly what happens at a lot of points, and I had to reread several paragraphs, and a lot of paragraphs were like 3 pages long. So yeah, she was a writer. I know that. She was like haunted by her need to write, I guess. I don't know. There's quite a bit. Something I do commend is there are a few characters in each of these books that coincide with their books, and I liked that. We saw Teresa in this one. I think we did see Franky. Yeah, we saw Franky. I think that's it for that one. I think that's it for that one. I think that's what we saw in this one are those 2. But I gave this one 3.5 stars because I really liked the depth in which we got to understand Annie. We got to see the reasons she did what she did. We delved deep into her psyche. There were a few parts that I just was so bored reading, but other parts it was interesting. There's a lot of this one that I just didn't understand. Next we have Teresa. This is one of the ones that I actually really liked. I gave it 4.5 stars. The 0.5 was taken off because of the AI art and because there were also a little bit of places that I didn't really understand, but this one had a lot less of that. Let me read the summary for that one. How could she cope without her magic? The thought never came to her until that day changed her life for good. And it is in this heart-wrenching landscape that we follow Teresa as she seeks to escape this consistent pain that has her frozen in time. An experience that is unrelentingly visceral, inconceivable, and profound. Yet when the acts of true courage, humility, dignity, and above all sacrifice are made, there is a chance for all virtuous grace and miracle to be affectionately rewarded within the painful acceptance of loss. She lost her kid. She calls it magic. It's cute. It's sweet. I understood this one a lot better. There were 1 or 2 parts that I'm like, does this have to be in here? It's kind of like, I don't want to read Stephen King novels because of what I know happens in it specifically, and a few other of the movies I've seen. I'm like, is this really necessary to put in here? Like, this is grotesque. But this one I did enjoy a lot more. I loved the ending. I loved the ending of both of those. These all, I've noticed, have an undertone of faith and different types of faith. This one has a lot more of Jesus in it, which I appreciate. Anyway, I like Teresa. It was one of my favorites in this series. I have one other favorite, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Actually, it's coming up next. Next is Franky. Gifted in making others look so beautiful and celebrated, the story of Franky Sardana is one of unfortunate circumstance, elegant transition, and horrifying evolution. When a certain family member passes away, the door for change is opened, and when Franky grabs hold of this life-changing venture, the spiral of mayhem is unfortunately set as the path towards beauty and perfection has severe consequences to fear. So basically, it says like she has eczema or something. I have that here, but she has it all over her face, and it's like to a horrifying, gross degree, like disgusting. Like if you have a queasy stomach and cannot handle pus and blood, please do not read this one. I don't mind. But she is super talented with makeup, and she can make pretty much anyone beautiful. She has good in her, and you can see that throughout the beginning, but there's also this twinge of just anger that expands after her grandmother, I believe it was, grandmother dies, and she's left a huge sum of money. She gets plastic surgery and gets all the eczema removed. She's gorgeous now, like so much so she gets put in a play. Then her eczema starts coming back because her brother sucks. And that's basically it. I cannot stand her brother. This one, I think I was able to understand like 99% of. I don't know if it was me getting used to the writing or if it was actually the way it was written, but looking back, these are all written kind of differently, which I appreciate because that's how it should be whenever you're narrating from different points of views. They all have their own sound, and I do like that a lot. Anyway, I love the themes in this. There is one scene that I'm like, just makes me kind of cringe, but that's just because of things that I believe in general. There is another scene that just makes me uncomfortable, but not in like a gross way, in a oh my gosh, I could not be restrained like that way. But overall, this is one of my favorites along with Teresa. I really enjoyed it. Next is Persephone. This one is one of the longer ones. I think this one's actually the longest. Mary is the second one, which is coming up next. But Persephone, let me read the back for you. The story of Persephone is an unrelentingly bleak tale of the lost one who wishes to be found and set free from the harsh brutalities of life. Sadly, through a series of events where her body, mind, and soul define the fall of her character and notorious decisions made when completely at rock bottom, it is when Persephone must face the mortifying truth of her character, and with her eyes wide open with the desire to improve and better herself, will she in the end be granted a new direction that returns the love she yearned, and with a leap of faith be granted everything she ever wanted. This one I think had my jaw drop the most with a that's a twist, so that was cool. The first half kept me entertained. So the very beginning I was like, okay, interesting, getting used to this new character or whatever, and then this guy is like, I love you, out of nowhere, and she's like, okay, and he takes her in, and I'm like, all right, that was weird, but there is a reason for it, and I appreciate that reason. I think the first half is better than the second half. The second half I was a little bored out of my mind, but it did have some new twists, some good twists that I did like. I love the ending. It's so tragic, but I do like the ending a lot. I do love the love that they share. It is kind of possessive on his part, but there's a reason for that, and it's a twist, and I really like the twists. So this one was not bad at all. I gave this one 4 stars as well. I don't know if I said the one for Franky, but that one was 4 stars too. So this one was pretty good. Wasn't my favorite, but I did enjoy the beginning. Next is Mary. That's this one. This tale in the Woebegones series follows the glamorous, divine, wholly sophisticated, and backwards character of Mary, who believes that her purity can bring peace to the world. And although her dreams are righteous and she pursues the path as a pageant queen, along her way her faith, purity, and indeed her character are tested to the brink. It is when she plunges into the heart of darkness that her true power is found, which causes the underworld of filth to take heed of the virgin who is so naturally gifted in being the force to be reckoned with, that invites all unnecessary evils to face that are shocking, perverse, and deeply disturbing. This is my least favorite book of the series. I'll tell you why, but first I'll tell you the reasons I really enjoyed the creativity of this. I don't like the first line. Let me start with that. Second, this book is written backwards. It starts from the last chapter, makes its way to the first. I love that concept, and I will definitely be using it in one of my books in the future, and I'm super excited for that because I love that idea. This is the darkest one out of all of them. This one made me hurt inside, and it made my stomach queasy. Looking back on it and rereading the summary, I wish there was more emphasis on the pageant queen than the underground stuff. There's so much that happens. I hate all of the characters that just let things happen to her. By the way, this book made me angry for a few reasons. I'm gonna stop talking about it. But that's Mary. And last but not least, my favorite of this series. I'm gonna butcher this name. Aleasha? I hope I said that right. But this is my favorite book of the series. It's the last one I read, and I'm so glad I read it last. I'm glad I read it in the order that I read it in. Set in the war-torn and poverty-stricken area of Jadal, the residents, daily struggle is a nightmare they hope will one day find an end. And while the agony is relentless, this troubled tale of the Woebegones follows Aleasha, a nurse whose commitment to the wounded is faultless, but it's in her deep fascination with death and morbidity that allows her striking personality to come alive. But once at the summit of her contentment, a tragedy snatches at Aleasha's heart, causing her focus to be outraged by a crime that ruins her family. One that is perverse and has Aleasha clasped in such an unlawful and unforgivable state as she is forced to face the universal storms of her individuality, her role as a mother, and of course the examination of life when horror is faced. I will say, I'm not quite sure where the first little part comes in, maybe it was a dream or something, but this one is fascinating to me. She's a nurse. I guess she works in a morgue. She is overseas, of course in another country. This book reminded me how lucky I am to be in the United States, where we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and I have freedom to be a woman, and I am so glad. basically, she's told her daughter dies overseas in the UK, and she wants to bring her body back over here, but she doesn't have the funds for it. Her second daughter, if I'm correct, her second daughter ends up dying, and she has to take care of the body and all that, and she decides, I'll just sell her stuff on the black market so I can get my other daughter over here to bury her. I believe that's what happened. I believe that's what it is. Anyway, it turns out it was a scam. There's a lot of stuff that happens in here, a lot of real world stuff. This is, I think, the realest one out of all of them. And this is the one that struck me the most. The other characters are super flawed, and at times I just hated their decisions, or I could not necessarily could not stand them to a point where I was like, I can't read anymore, but couldn't stand them and be like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? Don't do that. Oh my gosh, make better choices. But you know, that's how it is. Sometimes we do that in our own heads while we're doing something that we're like, why did I just do that? But I could not hate her. She's a mother trying to survive, trying to take care of her family and herself. I do not blame her for a single thing that happened. I am fully rooting for her, and the ending. This is my favorite book. If you are to pick up this series, this is definitely one to save for the end, just to wrap everything up in a nice, neat bow. I love this one, and all these books are connected in every way. These women, their lives are entangled and they have no idea most of the time. But I love this book. This is a really good book. I gave this one 5 stars. This is my favorite of the series. I didn't think it would be because I really enjoyed Teresa and I really enjoyed Franky, but this one was a really good book. So all you really need to know for this series is it is super dark. Some books are darker than others, but they are entertaining reads, especially if you like Stephen King type novels. I haven't read actual Stephen King, but I've seen a few of the movies and it gives me that vibe for some of these. So if you like super dark and you like multiple point of views and you like interconnecting timelines, this is definitely the series for you. Like I said, it is cheaper in UK to get the paperbacks, but if you like the ebooks and don't mind them, then they are all on Amazon. I'll leave all the links below for you. I think I would give this series a 3.5 total. I just wish there was a little more editing, a little more formatting, and I wish there were indentions for each paragraph. I do know that Noel Biddy is coming out with more books in the future, so keep a lookout for them. This is the Woebegones series, self-titled the most offensive book series ever written. I didn't really find it offensive, I just found a few of them gross. That's all it really was. So links are in the description below, along with a big description for the whole series. So go check them out if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.